Welcome to the Build Better Blueprint, the podcast where we discuss the foundations of real estate, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. Join Christian Cardamone as he shares insights, strategies, and stories that will empower you to level up your business, your lifestyle, and your impact. Let's build a better blueprint for success, starting now.
Hey, this is Christian Cardamone. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Build Better Blueprint. Today, I've got a special guest for you. Justin Woodall, he's here. He's going to share some of his wisdom and knowledge in all things real estate, as well as investing, brokerage, building a team, and being a member of GoBundance as well. So Justin began selling real estate back in 2004 as a solo agent. He had a few good years before the Great Recession, which almost drove him to leave the business. After a lot of self-reflection and prayer, he realized that he didn't really want to go back to get a job, and he needed to figure it all out, as he and his wife's savings was quickly evaporating. He changed his mindset, invested in a coach, and amped up lead generation and prospecting. And his business began to grow so much that the following year he was able to hire an assistant in 2011, who is now his operations manager. His business continued to grow, and he now leads a team of agents in Athens, Georgia, home of the University of Georgia Bulldogs. Go Bulldogs. Additionally, he also owns Iron Horse Property Management, focusing on residential property management in the Athens area. Justin's been married to his wife, Katie, for 22 years, and they have 3 children. In his free time, he enjoys being outdoors in some capacity, whether it be hunting, fishing, or exercising. Justin, thanks for coming to the show, man. I really appreciate you being here today.
All right. Yeah. Appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. So we were just chatting offline a second ago. We're both real estate brokers, and I believe you're with EXP, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
I've kind of had the whole journey, of being with other brokerages. I was independent for a little while, and I guess about a little over 3 years ago, we linked up with EXP. So now we're a team within the bigger brokerage. So
that's great, and that's one thing that it's always intriguing to me is where real estate professionals, their journey and genesis from firms kind of leapfrogging from one to the other, and with all this, these new firms, or Keller Williams, EXP, Real Broker, these new kind of tech firms really that are coming online have so much to offer. It's like you got to pay attention to these things in order to be aligned with the best team, right? So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey into the greatest industry in the world, and your progression, from real estate broker to being a member of the Tribe of Millionaires.
yeah, well, so I guess going way back, I started selling real estate in 2004. Had worked at a different job for about 3 years right out of college, and just did not enjoy it. And I've always been the kind of guy that I like to be, paid for what I do. And at that job, I had to be there at 8. I could leave at 5, even if I was done with my work. I had to be there, and it was just, didn't matter how much money I made the company or saved the company. I got the same paycheck every month, and it just didn't fit for me. So I started looking into real estate. Talked to a local broker here and said, hey, that sounds like it would be a lot of fun. So I went and got my license while I was still working at the other place, got my license at night. That was before online was really a big thing. Mm-hmm. It was an option, but I took a live class in the evenings for several weeks, finally got my license, and then I just jumped out on my own. Was a solo agent for a while. And as the bio mentioned, kind of came into the Great Recession, and I hit that roadblock where I said, hey, either I got to figure this thing out, or I got to go get a job, because we're dipping down our savings just to pay bills. Yeah. But I grew so much out of that. It's those hard times, I think, that force you to figure things out and force you to grow. And so we did. And had it not been for that recession, I'm not sure that I would have the team that I've got now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome, and I can totally relate to that, man, because I got licensed in 2004 also, and it was like, the fish were like jumping in the boat for the first couple of years. And I was like, holy shit, I'm rich. This is awesome. I've never made that much money before. And I was, single at the time. So it was tremendous. And then that hit, and the bottom dropped out. The rug got pulled out from underneath us. And, I lost literally everything. Fortunately, it was just me, so it wasn't too devastating for anyone else. But that resilience that came through pushing through that market is something I wouldn't, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't trade that for anything, because I think it gave me the mettle to continue on to now at 20 years in the business. And that's where you are as well. So how important is that? Because a lot of agents only know a good market, and that's, um, what are your thoughts around that?
I mean, I think it is the hard times that force you to become stronger and force you to grow. I mean, that's what I would say. And I did two things during that time. One is I went heavy on lead generation. I mean, I decided, okay, I'm going to invest, even though I'm digging into my savings just to pay my bills. I've got to allocate some of this to invest in the business if I'm going to stay in it. And I
Yeah.
had to commit. And so once you do that, it's kind of like you're all in. You dig into what little bit of money you've got left and say, I'm going to get some leads for this, then you dang sure better work the leads.
Yeah.
And the challenge now is you got agents coming in, you're providing leads for them, and I don't think they always appreciate it the same way as I did back whenever I was generating them myself. And then I also hired a coach, and so having somebody that had kind of been there before me that knew how to train me and coach me on what to say and how to say it and the activities that I needed to be focused on, that was huge as well.
Mhm.
And then one other thought that I had, you mentioned that you lost it all. Fortunately, I did not go belly up. I didn't lose. I had some friends. I know some builders that literally, they just turned in keys. They literally did lose everything and had to start again.
Yeah.
I had a few rental properties during that time. And the great thing, about real estate is that those properties stayed full of tenants during those times, and those mortgages still got paid. And I didn't sell them. And I know some people just kind of freaked out and sold properties at a loss or whatever because they were going down. Well, when you have that long-term vision, you just the tenants make the payments, and now I look back and it's like, man, I'm glad I didn't sell them then, and had I had some money, I would have but should have been buying then,
Yeah.
but the few that I had before the recession, I held on to. Tenants continued to make the payments, and now they're worth 3 times what they were worth, when I bought them,
Mhm.
and rents have more than doubled, and so it's just been a great thing.
That's awesome, man. That
Yep.
just shows you the power of tenacity in this industry, and how things do compound over time, and just staying in the game. Because I know when we did have that basically collapse, you're right, that was the time to be buying, because we also had such attrition from the industry. So many brokers left our board here. I'm sure it
Mhm.
was nationwide. So in one respect, if you had if you had like the vision, and you weren't just your judgment wasn't so clouded just by like the fear, you could say, well, the competition just got a lot less because there's only half as many people even out there competing for this. So that's a
Sure.
mindset.
Yep. And my mind, and so I hired a coach. Had got some invested in some lead generation, but my mindset changed too. I was in a big office at the time. You would go in the main office workroom there. Everybody was singing the blues. Houses aren't selling. Oh, this is terrible. And it
Yeah.
was. I mean, that's infectious. But I remember. There's just a few things you remember, and I remember distinctly going in our MLS and looking at the number of transactions that took place that past year.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what it was. It was, I'm in a fairly small market. It was, 2 or 3 thousand sales or whatever it was. Just say it was 3,000 sales. And then I thought, well, man, 3,000 sales and there's two sides per transaction. That's 6,000 opportunities. I only
Yeah.
need a small percentage of those to make a really good living. So let me go
Yeah.
find my small percentage. And so my mindset just shifted and changed. And I said, I'm going to start, started calling expired listings during that time. I was doing online lead generation, and just one thing led to the other. And it just really continued, it just started to grow from that.
That's
Um,
amazing.
but the mindset was huge. Mindset shift was huge.
Yeah, so I think you're like, you're in the minority for sure, because most people, when something like that's happening, it's like a calamity. Like, for you to do that, how did you? Were you like, did that was something you studied in college, or come down through your family, or how did you have the fortitude to say, I'm going to double down, and then hiring a coach? Coaches aren't cheap in this industry, and that's even, most people would kind of fold their tent. So what do you think brought you to that realization that you needed to seize the opportunity?
Honestly, I think it was the pain of how much I disliked that job before.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go back to that. I had spent 3 years in a job I didn't love. I learned a lot during that job, and I would take nothing from. I had some great people that I worked with, had a good mentor there, so I take nothing away from that. And actually, I think that helped develop me into who I am now as well. But I just didn't enjoy that job, and I didn't want to go back to an 8 to 5, you know, little prison box that I felt like I was in.
Yeah.
And so I think the thought of having to go back and do something like that versus figuring it out, and shifting that mindset. Yeah. So I mean, I think that was what really drove me to say I've just got to figure this thing out.
Yeah, and that's awesome, man. And what firm were you with at that point in time?
It was a Coldwell Banker office,
Okay.
Yeah, and then as I started to, just a little history, as I started to grow my team, as I hired the assistant who is now my ops manager, wanted to bring on a buyer's agent, and it just didn't fit the mold, didn't fit the box of
Mhm.
the Coldwell Banker office that I was in. We were trying to force it, and it was like a round peg in a square hole, whatever. It just did not work. And so at that point, I looked at, okay, Gary Keller had written the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. I had read that, and I said, that's what kind of made me think I want to grow a team. I said, well, I guess Keller Williams is the place to go. So I went to Keller for
Mhm.
a while. Spent 4 years there, learned a ton there, built my team, and then the whole team and I shifted out of Keller Williams and opened my own independent brokerage for a few years. That was great. And then we linked up with EXP, and we've been successful all those places. So Keller Williams is a great company, EXP is a great company, and there's some perks to being independent. There's pros and cons to both.
Yeah.
And I think any agent or any broker just needs to figure out kind of what's best for them and their team.
Yeah. So tell me about, okay, so let's talk about that. What does your team look like? How many members do you have, and what is your role in the team business?
So I pretty much lead the team now. I lead the trainings, mentorship of the agents. Try to do a little recruiting. We stayed a very small team of just 4 or 5 members for a long time.
Mhm.
Very highly productive team, which worked great. But I also learned that if you have 1 or 2 agents have an off year, it significantly impacts the bottom line because you've got expenses you got to hit every single month.
Yeah.
And so came to the realization that I need to be bringing on some new people, bringing on some other agents to train. So we've made a little more intentional effort to recruit a little bit now over the last couple of years, and it has made a difference. We've had some agents come in that have learned and are doing really well. Others come in and they just don't want to put in the work. They
Yeah.
just don't do it, and so they don't stay around long.
Yeah.
But my main role is bringing in new agents, onboarding, helping to train and mentor, and really just lead the team. Manage the, help my ops manager. He and I work hand in hand to really lead the team. So I've been mostly out of production for several years. Occasionally, I'll go on a listing appointment if it's people that I know or friends or what have you, and then from there, the listing partner, kind of takes and runs with most of it. And then I've also got a property management company, so a little bit of my time is spent kind of overseeing the managers and the folks I've got working in that company too. So
That's awesome. That's such a great additional, revenue stream through that. I know that property management company generally complements the brokerage side of things as investors are, adding properties to the portfolio, disposing of them, and you guys are right there. You've got the, you've got the line of communication with them. So I know there's a lot of value to that. It's worked very well in my business in the past because I have a small boutique property management firm as well. And, one hand feeds the other. So it really works out well. Do you think, obviously it sounds like you enjoy leading the team versus being in production, and that seems like that served you well?
it has. And I do enjoy being in production. The part that I didn't enjoy about being in production, as my kids started to grow and be involved in various things, real estate's it's all the time. It's hard to separate your personal life from your real estate world.
Yeah.
And, so the negotiating contracts on, Saturday night or Sunday night, or, due diligence is ending on a, Sunday night or a Saturday night. And so you're trying to go to an event or, sporting event or some kind of function with family or whatever it is, and you got this repair issue that you're trying to work out, or a counter offer that needs to be responded to or whatever it may be. So that's the piece that I didn't love about production. Otherwise, I loved it. I loved meeting with sellers and buyers and, helping them find that solution that they're looking for. So it's just changed a little bit now, and this gives me a little more autonomy over my time to be
Yeah.
able to have
And
the agents going out and doing the day to day.
that's awesome, man. You get your cake and eat it too, because you still get to oversee the transactional portion of it and participate when you want to, but you've drawn that boundary.
Yeah.
And so that's awesome. A lot of folks can sympathize with that in the industry because, if it's 7:30 at night and then, you're at dinner and then you look down, you've got like something that's very time sensitive. It's like people don't understand you kind of have to. It's not a kind of business where you can turn off your phone at 5 and pick it up at 9 and just, deal with it at that point. It's very time sensitive, mainly just because, you're always working with different clients and they might be in the military, they might be in a different time zone, and you kind of have to service them. So that just comes with the territory. People think that you make your own schedule in this industry, but they don't know that your clients kind of have a lot to do with that, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. And, you know, by having a team and having other agents, it really creates a win-win because they're benefiting from business I'm bringing in. I
Mhm.
benefit from them being the ones that are taking that call at 7:30 or 8 or 9 at night, you know, and
Yeah.
so it really is a win-win. Another thing I remember, you know, again, just little distinct things you remember kind of coming through when I started thinking about growing a team. Um, I remember we were getting ready to take a family vacation one summer, and you know, I had invested in all this lead generation. I had this guy I'd been working on, talking to for several months, and he calls me up on like a Friday, or Thursday or Friday, and said, "Hey, I'm coming into town this weekend." He's a doctor, so I'm
Mm.
coming into town this weekend. We're going to find a house while I'm here. I'm going to be here for 3 or 4 days. Coming in, it was Saturday or Sunday, whatever day it was, and I'll be here through middle of the week. Goal is have a house under contract before I leave. I said, great. Well, we were leaving Saturday to go on family vacation to the beach, you
Yeah.
know, and so I look at that and I was able to refer it to another agent in the office and I got a referral fee from it. But I told my wife on that trip, I said, you know, the cost of this trip was not the cost that it was to rent this condo
Yeah.
and to come down here. The cost of this trip was the commission that I did not receive, you
Yeah.
know, because he bought a very expensive house and it was a nice commission. And I said, you know, so that was the true cost. And I lost that revenue. And that was the other part that kind of started me down the track of thinking, well, I need to build a team so that when I'm gone or I can't be there, someone else can fulfill that business and still take care of the business that we've worked so hard to generate, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's a great point. That's that like goodwill and that intangible capital that you have established. Um, when you've been in it as long as you have, then the phone just like, just rings. Most agents would kill for that, So it's like you can't waste that when it comes in. So to be able to pass that off to someone that you trust that will shepherd that deal to settlement and still get a piece of that is a return on what you've built. So I think that's really
Right, right.
important,
And somebody that's going to do it, that's been trained by you, that's going to do it the way you want it to be done. You
Yeah.
know, because that's important too. So yeah, so it becomes a mutually beneficial relationship and really almost like a partnership with these agents.
Mhm.
So, you know, yeah.
Yeah. So building a team, I think you have a unique perspective. It sounds like if you went from Keller Williams, which kind of, I wouldn't say they invented, but they just got really well known for building for the millionaire real estate agent framework, which is very simple and just very effective, I think. And then you went into your own independent brokerage and then back to EXP. What do you tell folks that ask you about the benefits of being with the team, having that affiliation with EXP or Keller Williams versus being on your own? What are some of the highs and lows of that? Because I know a lot of recruitment happens. They'll go and find these little boutique firms that are independent, and they offer them this kind of blanket, this warm blanket of administration and less headache and allowing you just to focus on your team. Is that the biggest carrot that they dangle when they're trying to recruit you from independent onto a firm?
You know, I think, well, there were a couple reasons we moved to EXP, and there's pros and cons to both. I mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
And because we're still pretty much operating the same way, whether we have EXP behind our name or not, we're doing the same thing. We're doing the lead generation, we're doing the follow up, we're buying and selling, helping buyers, helping sellers sell homes.
Yeah.
So we're doing the same thing. The Some of the other intangibles, I guess, one is, with a bigger firm like EXP, they technically are the broker. So when it comes to brokerage level stuff, they're the ones that have to deal with any and knock on wood, I haven't had any liability or any issues to
Yeah.
deal with from a broker. But should that arise, they kind of handle a lot of that. Um, they also, EXP is a public company, so there's, stock awards, stock options, various things that can benefit agents from that regard that I could never do as an individual agent.
Hmm.
And then also the revenue share component. We had tried to kind of do some things. Hey, you bring somebody to the team, we'll bonus you this, bonus you that. We'd done a little bit of that. We were kind of doing already. EXP just kind of takes it to the next level, and it doesn't limit us to only recruiting people in Athens. You can recruit your cousin in another state or what have you, and EXP will reward the agents for that. So there were some of those kind of benefits that I felt like the agents, if we were plugged into EXP, they could benefit from.
Hmm.
And then of course, they kind of oversee the transactions and things like that too. So again, there's pros and cons to both. If EXP closed down tomorrow and we had to go back independent, whatever, we'd be fine. We could still operate. And so yeah, I mean, I think each person just has to kind of figure out, do they, again, is it mutually beneficial for them to be a part of a larger brokerage, or is it better for them to be independent.
Yeah.
So,
It's a question I wrestle with a lot because I have, I own my own firm where we do commercial property management. And
mhm.
I've always thought, as I do my sales with Keller Williams and Keller Williams Commercial, and I thought I could just be, conducting all my brokerage through here. And I enjoy the culture of the company. I enjoy the resources that are available. I don't have to go out and reinvent the wheel. It's all there. But definitely, like you said, it's kind of to each his own. Maybe one's not better than the other. All the things that I pay Keller Williams for, I would probably have to pay myself or hire an admin to do. So it's like,
exactly. That's what you do. Yep.
yeah. So the fact that they just kind of house it, make it easy, and then they have that kind of that more of a bulletproof vest when it comes down to liability. Um, in my mind, that's why I continue to hang my license there, just because I get that insulation for the most
Yep.
part.
Yep.
So that's awesome. So the show is kind of designed to be like a blueprint. If someone was listening to it and said, "Hey, I want to I want to be like Justin. I want to build a real estate team. I want to hire some agents and get into and be managing and leading them." What are a couple things that you would pieces of advice you would give to someone who's maybe an independent agent now, and they said they're in a situation like you where maybe they want to have some more time to themselves. What are a couple things that you would tell them to start paying attention to or to start doing?
Yeah, I think probably one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of agents make is they decide that they're going to go out and start a team, and they sold 15 homes last year.
Mhm.
You, and the way I grew it, and not to say that this is right for everybody, but I'm of the opinion it's hard for you to hand off business to another agent unless you're full yourself. Unless you've got more business than you can handle, how do you hand off to someone else?
Yeah.
And then what ends up happening on a lot of these teams is the team leader stays in production, and then they're just handing off the crumbs to the team member that they just brought on, and then the
Yeah.
team member says, "Well, I'm giving this guy half my commission, and these, I'm not getting any, and so I feel like they kind of get the scraps, and so they feel like they're getting slighted a little bit, and so the way I did it, um, you know, as the business started to grow after I poured everything into it, um, and hired that first assistant, basically at that point we kind of delegated roles. If you think about an org chart, when it's just you, you're doing it all.
Yeah.
So then I said, well, I need to hire an assistant, and that assistant's going to do all the paperwork side of things, the administrative stuff. He's going to be at the office. I'm going to be out doing all the face-to-face stuff. So that, or I'm going to be prospecting for new business. So
Mhm.
then it was able to, the scheduling of closing attorneys, schedule of inspections, all the amendments, all the stuff, setting up, appointments for showings and all those things. That was off my plate, and that gave me time to be face to face with more buyers and sellers,
Yeah.
or to be lead generating for more buyers and sellers. And so that's kind of how we built it. And then by doing that, I was able to close more deals, which would cover his salary.
Yeah.
So then we got to the point, okay, now I'm face to face. I don't have time for all the clients that I've got, even though I'm not doing the paperwork side of things anymore. So that's when we said, okay, now it's time to bring in a buyer's agent. And so for a little while, I did still work a few buyers, but the majority went to the buyer's agent, and I focused on listings. Well, guess what? I got more time on my hands now. I can go take even more listings.
Yeah.
So that's how we grew it. And I took even more and more and more listings, because all the buyers were over here with this other buyer's agent. Then we brought in another buyer's agent, because we more listings means more buyer leads.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So as the buyer leads came in, then we had needed another. And then so eventually I was able to get to the point that I said, okay, now I want to bring in a listing partner. And that listing partner, he was actually an intern. When he was in college, he interned with me as like a part-time assistant. So it was kind of came full circle.
Yeah.
Went to work for another industry. He was on the road a lot. He called me up one day, said, "Hey man, I'm tired of being on the road. I'm coming back home. I'm thinking about getting back into real estate." And I said, "You're my guy," because I knew his work ethic. So brought him on as my listing partner. He's still helping me today. So he handles any of the team listing leads that come in, he handles. But he shadowed me, and we co-listed everything for probably a year or two. We went on every appointment together.
Mhm.
So again, he learned how I did things, what I do, how I respond, how we frame that listing appointment, all the things. And so that's how I built it. I didn't just wake up one day and decide, okay, I'm going to hire you for my listing agent and you for my buyer's agent, and let's go. You got to have enough leads coming in. You got to have enough business coming in that it can be mutually beneficial. And
Yeah.
it's got to be at the level that it can still support you and support all of them. So anybody that's thinking about growing a team, I think you've got to do it yourself first, and then kind of work yourself out of that job, so to speak.
Yeah, that's great advice, and I can relate to that totally because I had a team for a couple years and followed your outline pretty much to a T. I never brought on the listing specialist because I just continued to list myself, but but some of my agents I allowed them to list as well. Um, but it started off with a lot of kind of the crumbs like you said, and so internet leads and stuff like that. We'd have a monthly spend designated for each one of them. Um, but I think I probably could have done a lot better job. My shortcoming was like I'm in production. I don't have time necessarily to sit here and help mentor you or guide you and help you do these conversions and shepherd you through these transactions. That's probably where I messed up a little bit because I probably should have removed myself more from the production, allowed them to do these deals on their own and just act as the team leader like what you're doing. So
Right. But in
um,
order to do that, you've got to have enough volume that they can do enough deals and there's enough volume to still support yourself as well when you're
Totally,
out.
because that's like the lady in the red dress. Every time a listing comes in or a buyer comes in, it's like I want to work with Christian, and it's a massive commission. It's like, okay, well, I might just work this one myself, or you can't just say no to that. But that's you have to follow the model. So that's
Yeah.
I respect that and appreciate that big time. So um, awesome. And so tell me about your goals for this coming year. So it's 2025 now. Um, is the goal to grow the team or just to raise the production that you guys are doing now, add a few new members, expand into different markets?
Yeah, so we tried to expand into another market several years ago, and that was tough. That's one of the hardest things. And I just ended up spending a lot of money, and we ended up pulling out when it was all said and done.
Yeah,
So we're just focused here at home as far as the real estate sales team. We're hoping to do 300 transactions this year.
that's awesome.
That's the goal, and we were just over 250 last year. So we are trying to grow. We want to add a few more agents to be able to hit that. And then, property management, I am looking at because I think property management can almost scale a little bit easier. I guess I'll find out.
Yeah,
But for the property management company, I am looking at expanding to some other markets at some point this year. Kind of doing some investigating into that now because what we learned on the property management side, very similar to the real estate team. We've got our internal folks that are paying the bills, collecting the rent,
mhm,
disbursements to owners, handling all that side of things, and then we've got the agents that are out, boots on the ground. They're showing the properties, they're signing the leases, they're taking the applications, they're calling them when the rent doesn't get paid. They're following up on that, taking care of repairs. So we got boots on the ground, very
yeah.
similar to a real estate team, and then we've got the internal part. So if I can find boots on the ground in some other markets, I feel like we can start to kind of spread our wings there. So we're looking into that for this year on the property management side.
Awesome. I love that. It's a great model. Mine started organically over the years. I just was referring it out for so long, and at one point I just said maybe I'll just start handling this myself. And then it grew just organically to a pretty decent portfolio. I offloaded my residential wing 2 years ago now. We were just under like 300 doors total. And so I shed that, and now we're just doing commercial management. But I'm also kind of in growth mode for this year, because
Mm-hmm.
it's something that once you have the basic infrastructure, and it's really your software and your relationships with your vendors locally, and some really good administration. I feel like the growth there's a lot of potential for growth in that.
There is, and it's what I have learned about the property management is consistent.
Yeah.
On the sales team, if the agents don't make sales, the income doesn't come in. On property management, it's a lot more consistent, and that's what I like about it. And you mentioned earlier, the two businesses very much feed each other.
Yeah.
And property management is one of those things I pushed away from for a long time
Hmm.
because I said I don't want to get into nickel and dime stuff when I can go make a big commission.
Totally.
But so it was not until I was out of production on the real estate team that I decided to get into property management. And it was a similar kind of thing. I would refer it out and I would hear good things sometimes and bad things sometimes. I'm like, I don't even know who to refer this business to anymore. I said, maybe it's time for me to start it. And so we did.
Yeah.
And God's been good. It has really, really grown, really. And like I said, I see the potential of it potentially even surpassing the real estate team at some point in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I wish you the best of luck with that, and I know that
Yeah,
you
appreciate
will be
it.
successful in that. That's you seem like a systems and models kind of guy, and so that's one business that's you can be strategic about that. And I think it's one of those businesses where it sounds like we had similar paths where you're just throwing it away for so long. And then because you're like, well, if I just take this one rental, it's $1,500 a month. I'm not going to feed my family on 10% of that every month, but
Right.
it's when you hit scale, then after that, it's just so easy just to throw more on. And so
Yep.
it's just, you got to hit that like critical mass. And then it goes from being like a little, side gig to like, wow, this is actually something I need to take seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
And we're getting to that point. So, yep.
good. That's awesome. And one thing that I noticed that kind of made me pay more attention to it, I think, is because I had some investment properties as well with managers. And I'd like your opinion on this. It seems like most investors have either no relationship or a bad relationship with their property manager. And so the bar is so incredibly low that if you go in and you treat these investors, these property owners with the same skill, care, and diligence and just compassion that you would a sales client, they're floored and they'll stay with you forever.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it is a very sticky business. It's interesting that you say that. And I did have an experience. I owned a property out of town. One of my first investment properties I bought in a market that's a lower price market because I was kind of nervous to get into buying properties.
Yeah.
I said, well, if everything goes south, I won't lose too much. And so I bought a property in another market, had a property manager, and it was a bad situation. I ended up 2 or 3 years went by, and we had no repairs, we had no nothing. I said, what's going on? So I need to go check on my house, and got there. It was trashed, had to spend a bunch of money, ended up fixing it and selling it, and it did okay. But the manager really dropped the ball, and we see a lot of managers drop the ball. We take calls, and take new owners sometimes, and they say, yeah, I can't get my property manager on the phone. I haven't gotten a rent check in 3 months. I really don't know what's going on. It's crazy, the stories that you hear, but they don't leave,
Yeah.
because it's just hard to leave. It's kind of like, changing banks or, something like that. It's just not an easy process. And so as long as you do a good job with them, they will stay. But we try to be above, like top notch when it comes to service.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of things that we've layered into our systems to make sure that we do protect our owners. And we take that very seriously. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that will absolutely lead to much more continued success because it's almost like you hit the nail on the head. It's like a battered wife syndrome or something. Like you just don't leave. I've had horrible property managers and it's like, I can't go find another one. I don't have time. I have too many other things going on.
Mhm.
So you stay with these people that like abuse you and just destroy your
Yeah.
property. And it's like, how are you not fired? And if that's how you were doing your real estate brokerage business, man, you'd be gone. And so it's just the bar is so low, man. It's crazy. You don't even have to do a good job. You just have to do the job. And so it makes guys like us, when we actually care about it and really do a good job, it makes you shine that much brighter, I think. So I love giving great service to my clients and making sure they're happy, they're making money. And that's kind of been my philosophy is if I take a property into my portfolio, I mean, it sounds a little cheesy, but I truly do treat it like it's my own. And that's how I started paying attention to these things because I was managing so much of my own stuff. It's like I can bring these on now because I'd hit that scale. And if you have that kind of approach to it, it's just easy to do a good job.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and we vet our owners a little bit too before we agree to take them on. Honestly, we found that if you bring on somebody that wants to be cheap and doesn't want to fix things, then that's going to get you a bad reputation with the tenants, and it's frustrating for us because I mean, legally we're bound to do things when the stuff's broke. We got to fix it.
Yeah.
You got owners that are pushing back. We tell them it's a team effort, and if you're not willing to be on board, and so we're not the right fit for every owner. But we do have to vet those a little bit too. But it's been a good business. It's going well.
Good. I'm glad you, and that's a good point that you raised too, though, is if you're in property management, is sometimes, it's tempting to take everybody, just like in sales, to take any client that comes to you and wants a business, but you really have to be mindful that it's a good fit for you and your communication style and your performance level, because especially with like, real estate investing has become so mainstream now. There's people that are buying houses that aren't real estate investors. And so they don't understand how this process works. And they might just buy something and not understand that it costs money to maintain these things. And so it's definitely a big factor to consider. So awesome. So let's pivot a little bit. You told me that you hired a coach back when the market crashed, and you're obviously a member of GoBundance. Tell me about your philosophy on the importance of hiring a coach or joining a community or a mastermind.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's what's the old adage? You're the average of the top 5 people you surround yourself with, or whatever. So, I mean, I think the people that you hang out with do make a big difference. And so, if you're hanging out with winners, people that are crushing it in business, you're going to learn from them. They're going to learn from you.
Yeah.
If you're hanging out with an alcoholic, it's probably not going to be long before you become an alcoholic too. If that's your main go-to. So, I think we're influenced by the people around us more than we realize.
Mhm.
And so, picking your peer group and being plugged into a group like that is huge. Just to, because we don't know it all. And sometimes we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
So being around other people that can pour into you and help you. So as far as a tribe standpoint, I think that's a lot of it, just getting around the people that have either already been where you want to go or are going where you want to go. And that's who you run with. You think back in high school, who did you hang out? It's who you run with. It ends up how you end up. So there is something critical to that. And then as far as a coach, I have coached. I had a coach most of the time, and it's been different ones.
Mhm.
But there hasn't been very, very long season that I would go that I would not have some kind of coach or somebody pouring into my real estate business. Just kind of having that outside looking in, they can see some things that you don't always see. Every professional athlete has a coach. And even on a property management side, we have had a coach / consultant that we've met with from the beginning, who is far ahead of us. So when we run into roadblocks and run into issues, he's able to say, hey, here's how we do it. And then we're able to kind of, and sometimes we do it exactly like him. Sometimes we don't do it exactly, but we take the idea and we say, well, for us, we're going to do it kind of like that, but a little bit like this. But having that sounding board and having somebody else that has been there, done that is huge.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's that perspective. It's seeing from the outside the things, some of the things around the corners that you haven't gotten to yet, or knowing what's over the horizon, and that expertise. I just think that's so important, and I wish I had done that sooner in my career. You were very wise to do it when you did, because it sounds like you've been in that process the whole time. And so I am the huge proponent. Spend the money, get in front of the right people. You want to be in a room where, your dreams are their realities. That just helps, it helps you elevate. And the perfect example is, like you said, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with. And so the more of these groups you can be a part of, I just think you'll see dividends on that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think back to that first coach I hired back in the day, it was Hoss Pratt is who it was. And I remember having a conversation with him on the phone, and a couple of things that he said to me that just really resonated. And one was, he said, listen, he said, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And just to think about like, well, what do I not know? And it was so true. And he said, you got to trust me on this. And I think at the time it was like $1,000 a month or something to coach with him, which was huge. In the recession, when I didn't have a lot of money, that was like a lot of money. He said, how many deals you got to do to earn 12 grand? At the time, for my market, it was 2 or 3 deals to earn that amount of money. And he said, do you not think after a year of coaching with me that I can't get you 2 or 3 more deals? And so I trusted him on it. And I mean, within the first couple of calls, I knew, okay, I've made the right decision, because this guy knows a lot more than I know.
Yeah, totally.
He's teaching me what he knows, and now I can plug into his knowledge source and the things that he knows to exponentially grow my business. And so, yes, it's a shortcut to could I figure it out? Yeah, but it might take me 5 or 10 years to figure it out. So it shortcuts the process.
Yeah.
It's really an investment in yourself is what coaching is.
Totally. And it's just, like you said, it's just a compression of time, really. You don't have to, you'll figure it out eventually. You're a smart guy, but why do you, time is money. Why wouldn't you just call, especially a guy like Haas? That's the fucking greatest coach name I've ever heard in my life. So you're obviously a student of that, mindset and coaching and learning. So tell us, what books 3 of your favorite books and 3 of your favorite podcasts that you would recommend folks wanting to follow in your footsteps pay attention to.
It may be hard to narrow it down to just 3. I think, and this is going to sound like everybody says this book, I think, but the one that was a very pivotal point for me when I was thinking about getting into real estate and investing in real estate was Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
That was a whole paradigm shift. Like my whole mindset paradigm completely shifted, after reading that book. And so that's kind of what started me on the journey. Another one that was pretty impactful for me too is Wealth Can't Wait by David Osborne. That was a really good one just when it comes to investing. As far as real estate related, Gary Keller's Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, we talked about that. There's another one Chris Waters wrote about Millionaire Real Estate Team. So real estate related, those are really good. But I'm constantly listening to either podcast or audiobooks or something. Another oldie but goodie, and he's passed away now, but Jim Rohn is a great, he's kind of like a Zig Ziglar kind of guy.
Yes.
That just, when you're kind of in a funk or you just kind of need to hear the truth, sometimes listening to that from a sales perspective and just from an outlook and mindset perspective, Jim Rohn will help you get back in the right mindset.
I love that, man. Yeah, he's like the GOAT. Him, Zig, was it Earl Nightingale? All those guys, they had like the craziest voices. I don't know if it was just like the audio equipment of the ages or they just had the most like insane like baritone voices, or it was awesome. I love listening to that stuff.
And I don't know what it is about Jim Rohn. He says the simplest things, but they just resonate. They just click.
Yeah.
We've even got some of his quotes around in the office here on the wall. So
that's great. I love that, man. Awesome. So let's move on. I got a couple more questions for you if you got a few more minutes. You're building a team. It sounds like you're incredibly successful, going to crush 300 units next year. Are you actively, helping folks do this on the side, or are you doing coaching outside of your team? Who are you best suited to be helping if someone wanted to reach out to you and get some wisdom and insight?
If they want to reach out, they can certainly look me up online, shoot me a DM or email. I'm happy to help any way that I can. I'm not actively coaching anybody other than my own team and my own agents at the moment time.
Yeah.
I've thought about at some point in the future, maybe considering that, but right now I'm not. I've had a few agents join me under the EXP umbrella. Of course, with the revenue share component, there's kind of a expectation that, hey, as you do deals, I get a little small piece of that, nothing huge, but a little small piece of that. So anybody that joins me at EXP, I'm willing to answer questions, help them, from that regard as well. But as far as a coaching program, I don't have anything like that to offer at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think folks
help my current team members, but if anybody needs help, I'm more than happy to talk to somebody and help them out if I can.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and if anyone's considering, switching firms and going to EXP, I'd encourage you, to reach out to Justin and talk with him. And I'm sure you can give them, your experience with EXP, what that's like, and probably help get them in touch.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So, how can we support you and how can we connect with you if we want to? Are you online on Facebook or Instagram, or where would folks reach out to you?
Yeah, so it's Woodall Realty Group. I think if you Google me, you'll probably find me, but Woodall Realty Group or Iron Horse Property Management, we're on Facebook and Instagram. To be honest, I'm not a huge social media person.
Okay.
I do have a Instagram and Facebook set up for growth-minded agents, which is kind of a little bit of me kind of pouring back into the agent community that I have done a little bit. Again, I'm not coaching through that, but sometimes I almost hesitate to even mention it because I don't post on there enough. I don't have enough content. I don't do a whole lot with it. But I will send some emails. I do post some content from time to time just to kind of help agents from that standpoint. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
That's awesome, man. I love that you kind of give back, even if it's at your own pace.
It's just slow. It's one of those things that I guess a year or so ago, I thought, hey, I really need to do this. And I have some local agents that follow it, and so that kind of helps for my local recruiting and things like that. But I didn't grow up. I'm old enough. I didn't grow up with social media, so it just doesn't come natural to me.
Yeah.
So I just kind of go do my thing, and I don't always broadcast it or don't always put it out there, and I should do more. So I'm trying to get better about that. But yeah, but you can find me there, and certainly if you DM me, I should see it because I do look at social media from time to time. So.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, Justin, I can't thank you enough for spending some time with us today, and I hope my audience enjoyed learning about your journey into real estate and building a massively successful EXP real estate team in Athens. I want to wish you the best of luck in 2025, and hopefully I can shake your hand and buy you a beer in Utah in a couple weeks, and we'll look forward to connecting.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you.
That's it, folks. That's our show. Thanks as always for listening. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please leave us a 5-star rating and subscribe to our channel so you are up to date with the latest episodes. Feel free to share with your friends and keep up the great work. You are on the right path. See you at the top.